details. But the main thrust is in today's situation. The utmost necessity for India, for the constitutional secular democratic republic, for the rights guaranteed by the Indian Constitution, and for the constitutional structure in terms of its independent institutions like the Parliament, the Judiciary, the Election Commission, etc., and in terms of the center-state relations and federalism, it is absolutely imperative that the BJP must be isolated and defeated. Since returning to form the government in 2019, this government has been systematically and rapidly advancing the fascistic Hindutva Rashtra project of the RSS. India's secular democratic republican character has to be safeguarded, and according to our understanding and vision, that has to be changed in the future and move towards socialism. But first of all, you require to save this order. So for that, our understanding is very clear that the core of this battle to save this would be the independent strength of the CPI. On that basis, the strength of the unity of the left forces. On that basis, the strength of the unity of left and democratic forces with an alternative program. And then finally, to bring together the broadest platform of secular forces to defeat the Hindutva agenda and remove the BJP from controlling the government. This is the plan that the draft resolution works out. And why we say that the left is the core is because not just because we are as the leading party among the left parties, that not because we desire, but this is something our own class enemies are actually pointing out, their assessment. Before these recent assembly elections, Prime Minister Modi gave his normal, structured, pre-scripted interview to a television agency, and in that pre-scripted interview, he says left is now isolated and weakened in the country. It is there only in one corner, that is there in Kerala. But nevertheless, it's a very dangerous ideology, and that ideology has to be defeated for the success of their project. It is their own assessment, and correctly so. Correctly so, because it is of all the secular forces that are there, it is the left and left alone that is able to ideologically, politically, organizationally take on this challenge without any compromising, because Hindutva and the fascistic project of the RSS can only be defeated by a firm adherence to secularism and the secular principles laid down in the Indian Constitution. Any amount of flirting with soft Hindutva, which will only feed into the agenda of the Hindutva forces. And that is what Congress keeps doing. And in that sense, the Congress today, compared to the past, has been considerably weakened. And many in the BJP RSS do not see the Congress as a major threat, primarily because at any point of time, any of its leaders can be easily lured to leave the Congress and join the BJP, like it's happening all the time. So a weakened Congress is unable to take on this challenge of the Hindutva thing. So what is required is for a stronger left that will be able to bring together all the secular forces in order to take it on. You in Kerala know the Congress is, their character, and they've their commitment to take on the Hindutva forces. And in many occasions in Kerala, you've had the Congress playing in tandem with the BJP against the LDF government. I mean, that is also very clear and we can see that. So this sort of a compromising attitude cannot help in advancing and achieving the objective of removing the BJP from controlling the government. The other response, that to combat majoritarian communalism or Hindutva communalism by mobilizing a minority fundamentalism, that also eventually feeds into the agenda of Hindutva. We've seen that happening with various issues that have come up recently. So what is required is that the minorities as well as the well-meaning Indian patriots in Kerala know the Congress's, their character and their commitment to take on the Hindutva forces. And in many occasions in Kerala, you've had the Congress playing in tandem with the BJP against the LDF government. I mean, that is also very clear and we can see that. So this sort of a compromising attitude cannot help in advancing and achieving the objective of removing the BJP from controlling the government. The other response, that to combat majoritarian communalism or Hindutva communalism by mobilizing a minority fundamentalism, that also eventually feeds into the agenda of Hindutva. We've seen that happening with various issues that have come up recently. So what is required is that the minorities as well as the well-meaning Indian patriots, all secular-minded people, all come together within the secular democratic mainstream and then take on this challenge, which is what we are trying to do. So that is the way in which we are envisaging that we shall proceed in the coming days. And I think this challenge, like we saw the last round of elections in in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, West Bengal, Assam, there you saw the BJP being on the back foot. In these elections, the BJP continues to be more on the back foot. We never heard of an Indian Prime Minister spending 3 days continuously in his constituency to make sure that the assembly elections, the BJP will win. What Modi is doing now. When you have all these problems before the people of the country, unemployment, which is becoming a complete curse on the people's livelihoods, poverty, hunger. Our hunger index, we have again slipped 3 points down this year in our SDGs, that is the developmental goals that were being set up to be achieved. India is again slipped, continuously slipping for the last 7 years. And in that sort of a situation, so addressing the problems of the people, this inflation, addressing those problems, what is the whole thrust of the campaign of the Prime Minister in UP? Communal polarization. UP Chief Minister says 80 versus 20. Prime Minister talks of Kabristan versus Shamshan Ghat. And this polarization is the only weapon they have to garner people's support. And I'm sure that is going to be rejected this time as well, like last round of assembly elections, and then that will pave the way for the alternative to emerge. Now the third aspect is that as far as the situation in Ukraine is concerned, our party has been very clear that this Russian invasion of Ukraine and the war must stop immediately. There must be immediate ceasefire and diplomatic channels must be utilized to achieve the objective. We recognize that this is actually a war between Russia and the USA, NATO. And Ukraine is the theater where this war is being played out. When the so-called wall was demolished and unification of Germany took place, at that time USA had declared that NATO forces will come into unified Germany, that is into East Germany as well, but they will stop there, there will be no eastward expansion. But they have continuously negated that, betrayed that understanding. And today, except for technically Ukraine and Georgia, all other countries in Eastern Europe are members of the NATO. In Ukraine and Georgia, you have the NATO infrastructure that has already been established. They are not technical members, but you have 1,75,000 active combat troops on the Russian borders today. So for Russia to feel a security threat perception is perfectly valid in these developments. What has to be done is to get back to the diplomatic table and go back to implementing the assurances that were given earlier, so that this sort of tension does not erupt into these sort of wars, which will have long-term implications and dangerous consequences. Because all the players involved today are all nuclear powers, and any accidental development can trigger off a disaster. So that has to be prevented. So we are asking, we are hoping, and we are asking, and we want the Russian government to immediately, and Putin, to declare a ceasefire, and for Ukraine to dismantle the NATO infrastructure, to not join the NATO, and to remain a neutral country, like you had Switzerland after the Second World War. You remain a neutral country which doesn't take a position either with the NATO or with the USSR, and that stature must be protected by all. But then for us, the most important thing is our Indians who are stranded there. Now everybody, if we raise any issue of criticism, they say you are opposing the government's efforts. No patriot in our country will oppose any government effort to bring back Indians. All of us will support such efforts. But support to the government efforts to bring back our Indians does not mean appreciation of the government's moves. Why was it that on the day when the government of India decided to evacuate the staff and the families of the Indian diplomats in the Kyiv embassy in Ukraine, why on that day were not instructions given and evacuation done of all Indians in Ukraine? Why did it have to wait for the outbreak of the war? And even of the outbreak of the war, the advisory that they issued yesterday, saying that Indians should leave Kharkiv, and then the advisory says if there is no transport, unable to find transport, walk to the borders. When the shelling is going on, you want our students to walk to the borders in that cold, nearly zero temperatures. Now this we think is very callous and inhuman. Immediate, I don't know, they are claiming 4 ministers have gone there, and there are also reports of how the neighboring countries, some Poland, I don't know whether they are right or wrong, but they are disturbing reports of how they are harassing Indian students who manage to reach the border. So these have to be settled, and the government will have to immediately, because all of us are getting SOS messages from various students saying, sir, please help. There is nothing available to eat, no place to stay. Now this is an inhuman condition, and immediately the government must get its act together and talk diplomatically to all these countries and to ensure that our students and all Indians are evacuated properly and safely. We already lost one precious life, and unfortunately such things should not repeat. So we would want the Modi government to immediately pull up its socks and take whatever action that is required, which will find support from everybody. But if they do not do that and use this only for publicity, that will be the greatest disservice to our people who are stranded there. Good. So, leave it to them for questions. Huh?
China is aligning with the Russians and Koreans, and now it has taken a serious turn that the rest of the world is.
I can't understand. Are you? Huh?
Can I come there?
Yeah, come here.
Sir, in your inaugural speech that you said that China could be taken as a model for the entire world.
Who said?
Told in your inaugural speech that China, you were telling about China that we could.
Where? I am here. You ask me what I said. No. You're saying what I said, which I have not said. I don't know what you're saying.
But when Chinese and Russians and the North Koreans are on one side, the entire other world community is on the other side in this issue, Ukraine issue. That if we praise China or if we.
Who is praising China? Where China doesn't enter this picture at all. What I'm talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
The support of China is also there for Russians.
Huh?
Chinese are also supporting Russians.
India is also supporting.
But won't your party be isolated in the world?
You're talking about India or me?
No, your party.
India is also supporting, no, along with China. What do you say about that?
That may be for some reasons. Maybe India is supporting because we have to bring.
If you want to support the BJP, please do. Don't ask questions that I have not raised. Ask me on what I have told you, and not on some fabricated issues which I have not said.
Already you mentioned about the photo session in the Ukraine war situation by the Prime Minister. Can you elaborate something on that?
About?
In the inaugural speech, you mentioned about the photo session conducted by Modi and BJP, Bajapa party, the Ukraine crisis issues. Can you elaborate?
No, what I am trying to say is that this is not an occasion for propaganda and photo ops. This is a humanitarian issue. We have to very seriously address this issue of how to help nearly 20,000 people who are stuck there. That's what I was trying to say there, that every one of us Indians are united in trying to seek the evacuation of our Indians safely. But what needs to be done for that is what the government has to be clear about. And that will have to be done through diplomatic engagements with all the neighboring countries of Ukraine and with Russia, saying that give us a safe passage for our Indians to move. This is done every time. During the Gulf War, we got more than 1 lakh Indians evacuated through this method of diplomacy through which the safe passage zone was created. During the Libyan crisis, nearly 1 lakh of Indians were evacuated safely, again through such methods. So our MEA, our administration, our officers have this capacity. They have shown this in the past. Why is it not being utilized? Use that now. Create the safe passage routes. Discuss diplomatically with these countries and say for the Indians stranded there, they create a safe passage route through which we can transport. Giving a directive telling our Indian students to leave Kharkiv immediately. There is no transportation, the train stations are so flooded with people, and then they say that you walk. Walk on which road? Walk on which zone? Where is it? You at least demarcate and tell them. So these are the issues, I think, on which Modi government must pull up its socks and immediately ensure that our people are returned. One second. One second. He raised it. You see, every time, this is not the first time, since the EMS government came into existence in 1957, every time the party adopts what we understand should be the manner in which Kerala's development should take place. In fact, when after EMS ceased to be the chief minister, in the 80s, I think, you had international conferences on the developmental model that Kerala should take. So this is nothing new, this process. So this is now, in this situation, what is the vision that Kerala should have? A proposal has been put forward before the state conference and that is being discussed. Now that process, you know, as far as the CPM is concerned, we have a program of the left and democratic forces. That is there in our draft political resolution. It's a printed public document. So that is the guideline on the basis of which the things will have to be formulated for the states, and that is what is being done. So therefore, that is the direction in which it is going. Yes. You see, yeah, I understand your point. This is a point that on which we have been, we meaning the party, has been very, very passionately exercised about the mushrooming of commercialization of education, and how do you ensure that the guaranteed rights of the Indian Constitution of social justice, reservations, etc. should be done. There we have said very clearly that all such private educational institutions, number one, please understand, no state in India can stop any private investment from coming in. It's a central subject, a central law. So that is something which, neither can we do anything about or you can't do anything about. That is the law of the country. Now, what are we saying? If private investment comes into education, they would like to use these as educational shops for maximizing profits. But we are saying all such private institutions must come under social control, not under government control. It must come under social control. The mechanisms for which suggestions have been made, with the various ways in which it can be done, whereby the syllabus that is taught, the course content, the salaries of the teachers, the fee structures for the students, and the implementation of the policy of reservations. All this must be guaranteed and must be ensured by that social control. Now that is something which has been our party policy, and that is something which we like to implement it. This is the way to control it. That is the social control. Every single point you've made, I've made. Every single, the fees, exorbitant fees, control on that. The salaries paid to the staff, particularly the teaching staff, ensuring that it's on parity with the government, this thing. And on the question of content and social justice, I've touched all these issues under the social control. That is what we have to keep trying to do. You see, the state of Kerala alone cannot stop private educational institutions. That is what we are suggesting. We will. That is what this document is. It is the left's proposal that private educational institutions may be brought under social control. It is a resolution adopted by the party congress, earlier party congresses. A little louder. You see, what is this privatization? I don't understand. This draft vision document does not talk of any privatization. What is today in the governmental sector, state structure, that will remain. That's not being privatized. Private capital can enter, and whether we say it or not, they can enter. There's no way you can stop it. That's what it is being discussed. It is being discussed still. So let the discussion be over. Let the document come. And the Left and Democratic program is printed in this document. You can all access this. It's there on the website. It is available for sale as a booklet. It's online. And we don't charge online also, so there is no problem. It is for free. So you please have a look at it. I'm sorry? Infrastructure? A party's view has been clear from day one. Environmentally, there should be nothing that is compromised. Number two, compensation for people whose land will be taken for this project, that will have to be publicly, openly decided and much more than the current market price. Three, the efficiency of the project in terms of its financial viability, all that has to be properly evaluated and established. All three are being done, or in fact done. They are being evaluated. On that basis, it will proceed. Kerala government can do it for Indian Railways. Is that criticism even reasonable? So the Indian Railways has to collaborate, no? Ask Modi. State government has suggested. Yeah, if you want to criticize, sir, please listen to me also. The Crest government, not now, from 1957, has taken initiatives a number of times for a number of central projects for cooperation for Kerala's development. It is for the central government to answer. They are privatizing railways. You are saying take cooperation from railways to develop Kerala. Which world are we in? No, the railways is being privatized. There are separate private entities that are coming for development of projects. In that situation, your criticism is, why is Kerala government not taking the initiative with Indian Railways? Indian Airlines, this section doesn't exist as a governmental sector. Well, whether it's yours or theirs, you are articulating it. So, I'm in my right to say that what you have raised. It is an unreal situation. I don't know where you are. Indian Railways is privatized. Process of privatization. So, asking the central government cooperate with Kerala, that doesn't exist. That situation is gone.
drugs and other concerns socially, whether it has been discussed in your state.
You see, youngsters are already coming into the party, you're seeing them. And not only here, even in those areas where we had weakened, in Bengal for instance now, there is a huge youth and the student, big movement going on the unfortunate murder of one of the students there, Anis Khan. And the entire Red Volunteer Brigade is full of youngsters that have come in. So promoting youngsters, yes, and we have taken also decisions in this party Congress that anybody beyond the age of 75 will not remain in the Central Committee. Many state committees have accordingly taken decisions below 75 to not have their members to be there in that, and that thereby bringing in youngsters into the party. So it's not only a desire to attract the youth, but an organizational method through which this youth will be brought into the party structures. And that is going on. That is the process that is going on in this party Congress preparations. Huh? I'm sorry? I can't understand. Yeah, they're all part of this resolution. My request is please go through this. All your questions, answers you will find in this. This is how it looks in English. Please read this. You will find all the answers that you are asking. That the BJP is on the back foot. But how the results will come out, etc., that we'll have to wait and see. Nobody can do it. But one thing is definitely there, that the BJP all through the campaign has been on the back foot, and I think that will have a reflection in the results. Even in Uttarakhand, even in Goa, I think they are on the back foot. In Manipur, they have gone and tied up with all sorts of organizations which they earlier used to accuse of being anti-Indian, etc., but they have tied up with that opportunism to garner votes. In Punjab, there is going to be, its outcome is uncertain at the moment. Maybe, let's wait and see. We'll have to see the result, whether there will be any clear-cut majority or not. But the Congress there, being the ruling party, the incumbent government, has a advantage, but may not be to form a government. So we'll have to see what permutation combinations will happen later. And in the permutation combinations, BJP is an expert. In fact, our Home Minister has this great distinction, his feeling, even if he has not said it on record. His general understanding is, whoever may win the election, the BJP will form the government. That is the general motto of the BJP. So that is why, unless there is a decisive mandate, such problems will come post-election. Yeah, these details you please ask the Kerala leaders. I have come here as an all India this thing. All the details of which road is not there, why don't you repair that road, why do you want this railway track? These are questions our local comrades will answer, definitely. What?
The state government policy is that to ensure the economic growth, we must promote industrial estate in private sector. Are you okay with that?
What is MI or not? What is the law in India? What is the law in India? Is it allowed or not? And you want an elected government to say, no, I won't allow it. What are you talking, sir? Please. You understand the Indian situation and ask questions.
To achieve that, there are recommendations that we must relax the land policy also. So it's a connected issue.
Land policy, how it is relaxed, what it is, it will be done through the legal means, through a legislation. So that will be on the basis of the people's understanding. If at all it is done. I'm not sure. I don't know these details. If at all. Huh?
Yesterday, Koirali said that if necessary, we will amend the law.
Not this law. He said generally, that was the question. Not this law, as per this document, any amendment is needed, that we will discuss. This you can ask to me after this.
A little louder, please. Yeah, you see, all my Kerala leadership is here in the conference. Every day they are having a press conference. Please ask them these questions of detail. The questions of detail, the All India General Secretary of the party does not have such details that you are asking me. Which road is in a bad condition? Instead of repairing that road, why do you want this rail? How do I know what is that road, which condition, what is it? These questions you please ask the Kerala leadership. They are all here. They are all available. And our state secretary is going to meet you today at 3:30 anyway. 2:30.
Comrade, one question. You have been repeatedly emphasizing
Repeat it.
that BJP will be isolated and defeated. And then comes the question of the role of Congress in this battle against Hinduism. Now you are saying, earlier you were vociferous about a tactical alliance with the Congress. Now you are saying that Congress has been weakened. But still the fact remains that Congress is the major opposition party in India which has a pan-Indian presence. So without taking into consideration this major opposition party, how does the left plan to push forward this fight against Hinduism?
Sir, may I repeat my request? Please read this. I'll read one paragraph. And that's why. Please read it. I'll beseech you. We'll also, if you want, we'll put an audio version on the social media in Malayalam. You put it so that it'll be easier for them to understand. No, please listen to me now. You ask your question, listen to me. Para 2.138. Please note down. The political resolution of the 22nd Party Congress, last Party Congress, stated that with the BJP in power and given its basic link to the RSS, it is the main threat. So both the BJP and Congress cannot be treated as equal dangers. However, they cannot be a political alliance with the Congress party. The same thing what we said then. You are now saying you said it then and now you are saying something else. Black and white, it's exactly reproduced. What we said then, what we are saying now. So look for controversies elsewhere, not on this issue. This is very, very clear. My inaugural speech was for my party, not for your Kerala political situation. Please, those issues will be dealt with in the public meeting. But unfortunately, that I may not be there. What I say to my party, in my party conference, is to the party, to what line we must proceed. It is not electoral tactics there. What is the major task before the party? All India. We are All India party. We are talking of People's Democratic Revolution in India. How do we proceed in that direction? So that is the main thrust of any General Secretary speech in any state conference. Not your local politics. And as far as Congress is concerned, it's all there, black and white, clear. Joining hands means what, sir? What does it mean by joining hands? Where? I said state by state, it will work out. 2004, when Manmohan Singh government was formed, when the left supported, out of the 61 left MPs, 57 entered the Lok Sabha defeating the Congress. now. So look for controversies elsewhere, not on this issue. This is very, very clear. My inaugural speech was for my party, not for your Kerala political situation. Please, those issues will be dealt with in the public meeting. But unfortunately, that I may not be there. What I say to my party, in my party conference, is to the party, to what line we must proceed. It is not electoral tactics there. What is the major task before the party? All India. We are All India party. We are talking of People's Democratic Revolution in India. How do we proceed in that direction? So that is the main thrust of any General Secretary's speech in any state conference, not your local politics. And as far as Congress is concerned, it is all there, black and white, clear. Joining hands means what, sir? What does it mean by joining hands? Where? I said state by state, it will work out. 2004, when Manmohan Singh government was formed, when the left supported, out of the 61 left MPs, 57 entered the Lok Sabha, defeating the Congress. Do you know? Please understand this. We defeated the Congress in 57 seats. But then, for the country's sake, we supported the Manmohan Singh government. So, opposing the Congress in Bengal, Kerala, Tripura, doesn't stop us there. So, the point here it is, state by state, we'll decide what is the best way to defeat the BJP. Huh? Why again, sir, please, I don't know, which abstraction you're talking of. No election in India has any alliance been formed which formed the government before election. Please follow politics. Indira Gandhi was defeated in 1977. The Janata Party that formed the government was formed after the election, after Indira Gandhi was defeated. VP Singh became the Prime Minister. The combination of National Front, Left Front, NF-LF, was formed after the election. Devagowda became the Prime Minister. The United Front was formed after the election. Vajpayee became the Prime Minister in 98. The NDA was formed after the election. Manmohan Singh became the Prime Minister in 2004. The UPA was formed after the election. A refresher course is required for all of you. So again, in 2014, please, before election, state by state, what is the best combination to defeat the BJP? That will be worked out in the specificities of the state. Okay? What is the question? Well, these are general issues. You please go through it. I think we can. Most of the. What? Naturally, he's been a veteran leader of ours. He's always been a source of inspiration, continues to be a source of inspiration. Unfortunately, we as Marxists also understand the scientific basis of life. So we are there when we wish he would have been active and being participant here. And we all wish him a long life, and I'm sure he'll continue to come back to active life. That Trivandrum will have to make sure whether I'll be able to go there now or I'll come back. Definitely, I keep meeting him very often. I'm in constant touch with him, and he continues to remain a party leader. I mean, there's no question of that. Okay, thank you.